Yeah. Hi. Hi students. Today I'm going to explain the topic name is chemical bonding. Yes. What is chemical bonding? What is chemical bonding? It means the strong attractive forces between two oppositely charged ions which holds together in different chemical combinations. So, chemical bonding, which is the definition is the strong attractive forces between the two atoms or oppositely charged ions together in different chemical combinations is called as chemical bonding. Yes, what is different kinds of chemical bonds in different molecules? So we can explain so many types of chemical bonds are there, but we know some bonds are there. So first one is the bond is ionic bond, and the bond is covalent bond, and the bond is coordinate covalent bond, and hydrogen hydrogen bond, like this. These are all the some of the types of chemical bonds. So how they are formed in between the two atoms. So many scientists, they suggest their bonds, how they are formed in between the two atoms, how they are intermixed with each other, how they are forms their molecules by the different kinds of chemical bonds. So many kind theories are also there. Some chemical bonding theories also there. What type of chemical bonding theories are there? Then, to explain different kinds of these chemical bonds, the scientists they give some of the chemical bonds. The theories of chemical bonds is number one is Lewis Kossel's dotted theory, and second one is VBT, valency bond theory, and third one is MOT, molecular orbital theory, and number four, hybridization, and fifth one is VSEPR theory, VSEPR, VSEPR theory, like this. So how to bond formation is taking place in between the two different atoms in different chemical combination. They give these types of bond formation methods, these known as chemical bond types. So first one is we are going to explain the topic is Lewis-Kossel's dotted theory. Lewis, first one is Lewis Lewis Kossel's Kossel's dotted theory. Dotted theory. What he is explain. What he is explaining. Lewis-Kossel's. They give the particular bond formation, how it is taking place in between the two atoms. సో రెండు ఆటమ్స్ మధ్య కెమికల్ బాండ్ అనేది ఏ విధంగా ఫామ్ అవుతుంది అనే దాన్ని బేస్ చేసుకొని ఫస్ట్ లూయిస్ అండ్ కోసెల్స్ అనేవాళ్ళు ఈ రెండు ఆటమ్స్ మధ్య బాండ్ ఫార్మేషన్ని మనకి ఇలా తెలియజేస్తున్నారు. సో ఆక్టెట్ రూల్, ఫస్ట్ వన్, హౌ ద బాండ్ ఫార్మేషన్ ఈజ్ టేకింగ్ ప్లేస్ మీన్స్ ఆక్టెట్ based on octet means atoms or ions or species contains 8 electrons in its outermost ఒక రెండు ఆటమ్స్ మధ్య కెమికల్ బాండ్ ఫార్మేషన్ జరగాలి అని అంటే ఆ రెండిటి మధ్య బాండ్ ఫార్మేషన్ జరగాలంటే వాటి అవుటర్ మోస్ట్ ఎలక్ట్రానిక్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్లో ఖచ్చితంగా 8 ఎలక్ట్రాన్స్ అనేవి ఉండాలి అని చెప్తున్నారు. సో హౌ సార్, how the possibility of 8 electrons and how they forms in between the two atoms is chemical bond. సో చెప్తున్నారు, ఫస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఆల్ హైడ్రోజన్ తీసుకుంటాం, అలాగే హీలియం తీసుకుంటాం, అలాగే బోరాన్, అలాగే కార్బన్, నైట్రోజన్, ఆక్సిజన్, ఫ్లోరిన్ అండ్ నియాన్. if we take the if we take the these types of molecules, it means the atom contains how many electrons in hydrogen? 1s1. Helium contains 1s2. Boron contains 1s2, 2s1. Carbon contains 1s2, 2s2 and 2p2. Nitrogen, how many electrons are there? 1s2, 2s2, 2p3, etc. So based on these, what is this? These are all boron is 1s2, 2s2, 2p1. So is the outermost, and it is the 1s2, 2s2, 2p2 is the outermost, 1s2, 2s2, 2p3 is the outermost. So these are all the valency electrons. So these are all valence electrons, means hydrogen contains 1, helium contains is 2, boron contains 3, carbon contains is 4, nitrogen contains 5, oxygen contains 6, fluorine contains 7 and neon contains 8 electrons. 8. సో నేను వీటిని డాట్స్గా నేను వ్యాలెన్స్ ఎలక్ట్రాన్స్ ఇక్కడ ఇండికేట్ చేశాను. సో హైడ్రోజన్, హీలియం, బోరాన్, కార్బన్, నైట్రోజన్, ఆక్సిజన్, ఫ్లోరిన్, నియాన్ కంటైన్స్ number of electrons. Valence electrons is also known as valency of its atoms also. ఒక్కొక్క ఆటంలో వాటి ఎలక్ట్రాన్స్ని నేను డాటెడ్ స్ట్రక్చర్స్లో ఇండికేట్ చేశాను. వీటిని మనం వ్యాలెన్సీ ఎలక్ట్రాన్స్ అని పిలుస్తాం. సో ఈ ఆటమ్స్ని తీసుకున్నప్పుడు ఈ వ్యాలెన్సీ ఎలక్ట్రాన్స్ని మనము గ్రూప్ నెంబర్గా కూడా చెప్పొచ్చు. ద నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ వ్యాలెన్స్ ఎలక్ట్రాన్స్ విచ్ ఈజ్ ఆల్సో ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్డ్ యాజ్ దేర్ గ్రూప్ నెంబర్ ఆల్సో. గ్రూప్ నెంబర్, ఫస్ట్ గ్రూప్, సెకండ్ గ్రూప్, థర్డ్ గ్రూప్, ఫోర్త్ గ్రూప్, ఫిఫ్త్ గ్రూప్, సిక్స్త్, సెవెంత్ and eighth. The groups are like this. So we know very well about what is the atoms are there: helium, hydrogen, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, francium. Helium, తర్వాత beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium, barium, like this. Boron, aluminum, gallium, indium, thallium, like that. Carbon, silicon, germanium, tin, lead. ఇది కాదు. సో ఇప్పుడు మనకు యాటమ్స్ అనేవి ఆ గ్రూప్ నెంబర్స్లో వ్యాలెన్స్ ఎలక్ట్రాన్స్ ఎన్నైతే ఉంటాయో అవే దాని గ్రూప్ నెంబర్గా కూడా మనం చెప్పేయచ్చు అనమాట. సో వాట్ దే expressed their bond formation in between the two atoms by using of Lewis dotted structures. What is this? Lewis dotted structures. Lewis dotted structures of these following atoms. Yes. So they are explaining how the bond formation is taking place in different kinds of molecules. So we are going to expressing how to bond formation is taking place by using of their octets. So veldama. Yes, for example, I am going to take the molecule of CH4. How the molecule will be formed as CH4. So is the central atom is carbon. How many valence electrons in carbon? So here 4 valence electrons are there. Yes, valency. And how many hydrogen atoms are there? 4 hydrogens are there. 4 hydrogens are there. Each of hydrogen will give 1 electron and it will be forms like this. And then hydrogen will give another electron to the carbon. By this causes one bond will be formed. This will be also gives 1 electron like this one bond will be formed. This will be also gives one electron to the carbon. By this causes four bonds are formed in between the carbon and four hydrogen atoms. And finally carbon contains 8 electrons. 8 electrons. So this is an octet. సో వాళ్ళు చెప్తున్నారు కార్బన్ సెంట్రల్ యాటమ్గా ఉంది. కార్బన్ అనేది సెంట్రల్ యాటమ్గా ఉంది. ఇందులో 8 ఎలక్ట్రాన్స్ కంపల్సరీగా ఉంటేనే అది ఆక్టెట్ని ఎగ్జిబిట్ చేస్తుంది. సో ఇట్ ఈజ్ అన్ ఆక్టెట్. సో కార్బన్కి హైడ్రోజన్కి బాండ్ ఫార్మేషన్స్ అనేవి ఈ విధంగా జరుగుతున్నాయి అని చెప్తున్నారు. హైడ్రోజన్ బాండ్ హైడ్రోజన్ లైక్ దిస్. ఓకే. అలాగే NH3. హౌ టు ఫార్మేషన్ NH2 మాలిక్యూల్ హియర్. NH3. Here nitrogen is the central atom. So 3 hydrogens are there. Each electron will gives to the nitrogen atom. By this causes one bond will be formed here. And second nitrogen will be gives like this. And finally nitrogen contains 8 electrons also. It is octet. సో ఆక్టెట్ వచ్చేసింది. సో లూయిస్ అండ్ కొసెల్స్ ఏం చెప్తున్నారంటే ఎవ్రీ ఆటమ్ విచ్ మస్ట్ ఎగ్జిబిట్ దేర్ 8 ఎలక్ట్రాన్స్ ఇన్ ఇట్స్ అవుటర్ మోస్ట్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్. బై దిస్ కాజెస్ ద బాండ్స్ ఆర్ ఫార్మ్డ్ ఇన్ బిట్వీన్ వాట్ దే ఆర్ ఇన్వాల్వ్డ్ ఇన్ ద పర్టికులర్ బాండింగ్. దెన్ ఇట్ ఈస్ సెడ్ టు బి octet rule. So H2O molecule next. How the H2O molecule will be formed? Oxygen is only 6 electrons in its outermost. Yes, 2 hydrogens will be gives like this and one and like this one. So oxygen contains 8 electrons in its configuration. By this causes they are H2O molecule will be formed. Octet is there. So the molecule is like this. H2O 2 lone pairs is there. Here also one lone pair is there. One lone pair. Nitrogen contains one lone pair. Right? So we are going to knowing how the octet rule which is exhibited in different kinds like CCl4. C contains 4 electrons and Cl like this. Cl is like this. Seventh electron will be gives and it forms one sigma bond. Second chlorine gives one electron to like this. Cl and Cl like this. 8 electrons. Cl like this. So total electrons is like this. 8 electrons are there. Carbon having 8 electrons and chlorine and all the atoms which are exhibited 8 electrons by this like this. So in some cases octet rule is failed. In some cases. What is the failed in some cases? Failed in BeCl2, BCl3 like that. Why they are not getting their octet in their outermost configuration of in central atom? Here beryllium is only valence electrons is 2. Chlorine is getting 7th electron to the beryllium and Cl contains 6 and it will be gives 8 electrons. Chlorine getting 8 electrons but doesn't get 8 electrons in its beryllium. The central atom which does not form 8 electrons in its outermost. By this causes the octet rule is failed here. Octet rule అనేది ఇక్కడ ఫెయిల్ అయింది ఎందుకంటే సెంట్రల్ ఆటంలో 8 ఎలక్ట్రాన్స్ రాలేదు కాబట్టి octet rule is failed in BeCl2. Like that boron contains 3 valence electrons. Chlorine BCl3, so 8th electron, 7th electron will gives like this and it will be forms like this. Here also clear. clear. So 8 electrons are coming, Cl, 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 and Cl here also. So 3 falling chlorine atoms which exhibit 8 electrons in its outermost, but the central atom of boron will gives only how many electrons here? Only 6 electrons are there. So there is no octet, no octet, no octet here, no octet by this causes. So in BeCl2 and BeCl3, octet rule is failed. Okay. Now superoctet rule. Superoctet rule. What is superoctet rule? Superoctet rule means more than 8 electrons. More than 8 electrons. More than 8 electrons. What is more than 8 electrons? The molecule name is PCl5. PCl5. In which phosphorus contains how many electrons are there? Yes, 5. Each of the chlorine, so 6 and a seventh electron will be used like this, and they produce 1 sigma and Cl. So seventh electron will be used like this, and seventh electron will be used like this. Each chlorine contains 6 and seventh electron gives to the phosphorus, and Cl which gives another electron to the phosphorus. Cl will be used like this, chlorine. So here totally 10 electrons. Here 10 electrons are there. 10 electrons are there. So it is failed in Lewis-kossel dotted theory. But bond formation is possible. How many electrons are there in chlorine atoms? Totally 8 electrons are there. 8 electrons are there. 8 electrons are there. 8 electrons are there. 8 electrons. But chlorine atom, but phosphorus atom contains 10 electrons in its outermost by this causes, which produce superoctet in the PCl5 molecule. By this causes, the molecule will use the structure phosphorus is like this. Phosphorus Cl, PCl5, Cl, Cl like this. This is trigonal planar and bipyramid. It means Cl, PCl5. And in molecule of SF6 also, SF6, sulfur is totally 6 electrons in its valence electrons. Fluorine is contains 6 electrons. Seventh electron will be used towards sulfur by this causes. One bond is formed, and second fluorine will also give 2 second electrons, and fluorine will be used like this, and fluorine will be used like this, and fourth fluorine will be used another electron to the sulfur, and finally fluorine gives like this. How many electrons are there totally? So 6 to 12 electrons are there. 12 electrons. So how many electrons are there? 12. So by this causes, here octet rule is violated here. It means they suggested the atom must be having 8 electron in its outermost, but it is violated comparing with octet rule, so which has 12 electrons. That's why octet rule is failed here also. Then IF7 also, IF7. So here the molecule is IF7. IF7 means, so each of the electron will be gives, yes, iodine NH2NP5. So here also 6th electron. So iodine will gives this one. So IF7 by this causes, yes, 7 electrons, 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So each of the fluorine IF7 contains like this. Fluorine contains like this. So which gives, yes, fluorine gives 2 electrons. Yes, 8 electrons. 3 3 7. So totally here the 14 electrons coming. 14 electrons will be coming. That is the mole, the particular Lewis-kossel started theory is failed in BCl3 and BeCl2, BeCl2, BCl3, BeCl2, phosphorus pentachloride, sulfur tetrafluorine, hexafluorine. I have 7 molecules is the failed molecules to formation of their Lewis-kossel dotted theory. సో థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్. ఈ వీడియో కనుక మీకు బాగా నచ్చితే లైక్ చేయండి, షేర్ చేయండి, సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేయండి. థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్.